Hello and welcome to Breakfast All Day. I'm Matt, that's Alonso, and that is Christy.
Hello.
They are going to review Wild Nights with Emily. I was not wild enough to see this.
Yes, well, you ought to should. This is the new film from Madeleine Olnek, a filmmaker I like a lot. Her films have mainly been big hits on the queer film festival circuit, including The Foxy Merkins and Codependent Lesbian Space Alien Seek Same. This is probably her most mainstream movie to date, but it is still, I think, pretty radical in a lot of ways. It is basically trying to reclaim the history of Emily Dickinson. She has long been portrayed as a reclusive spinster who hid away from the world and was never interested in being published. But this is a movie that posits that no, actually, she enjoyed a lifelong love affair with the woman who happened to be her brother's wife, that she did want to be published, and that she had other lovers as well. And I love a movie where the press kit comes with footnotes and documentation and annotations. We see that the woman who was her first biographer and first sort of publisher was actually her brother's mistress, and went out of her way to literally erase the brother's wife from correspondence. Susan, from various letters and poems that Emily had written for her, and so it's only now through like the use of spectrographic technology and stuff that we're able to kind of go back to those documents and realize that originally to whom they were addressed. And so this movie is basically claiming Emily Dickinson as the lesbian hero she always was.
So I love all of the high-tech details of this old-fashioned story, but I think if you didn't even know all of that, it's so compelling for the kind of fascinating line that it walks, because it is based in truth. It's based in these archival letters, but it plays like an episode of Drunk History.
Totally Drunk History, yes.
So, because it's got this like deadpan kind of almost anachronistic tone. Like it looks like a stuffy period piece, and they're all in period dress in these like Victorian houses in Massachusetts in the 1800s, and it all looks just so. But then there's kind of a charming, sloppy nonchalance about things. And yet, Molly Shannon is completely giving it her all and gets great range to show here because she gets to be funny. Her timing is perfect as always. And then she gets the opportunity to play real drama as she gets, deeper and deeper into this affair with the woman she loves and the complications that ensue from that. And Amy Seimetz is really funny in this too. That Amy Seimetz, of all the people, is really the most Drunk History-ish here because you see her intercut with the actual story. She is giving a lecture to like a women's auxiliary or something like that at the library.
Well, like years after Emily's death, and you see sort of her version of the history versus then what really happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you guys brought that up because I think a lot of times, especially like Victorian history, we get this look back of the way a certain mindset wanted us to think about what life was like believe that things were very staid and proper, and it's written by the people who, have a vested interest. And the reality is probably closer to what you guys are talking about, where it's like everybody was fuck up.
Yeah. Well, and specifically, I think like there has been, an erasure of queer people from history. And here we see a literal erasure.
What?
Like
people used to be gay.
I know, right? We didn't just invent it in the 60s. The movie literally ends with Amy Seimetz's character and her the brother and the brother of Emily Dickinson erasing Susan's name out of letters. But yeah, you're right. Even if you don't know the whole backstory, if you don't know all that stuff, on its face, this is just a really interesting story about this woman who was creative and interesting and difficult in a time that really didn't know how to embrace that. Brett Gelman pops up as the editor of the Atlantic Monthly and just like couldn't be more condescending.
He totally mansplains poetry to Emily Dickinson. Like, if you just take this part here and just cross it all out, it'll be so much better. And again, like the appearance of people like that who are known for comedy also gives it like an off-kilter, unexpected vibe. I want to mention that Susan Ziegler is the actress who plays Susan, who is Emily's longtime lover, and they have a really sweet chemistry with each other. And this just kept surprising me over and over again. Like it's really deadpan, it's really dry, it's really understated, but that is deceptive because there's so much genuine emotion going on beneath that tone. And I'm so impressed with Madeleine Olnek's ability to pull that off.
Yeah, Olnek originally wrote this as a play, and I think had staged it several times, and so that I think kind of allowed her to be sort of like a dress rehearsal for what the movie was going to be like. So she definitely knows this material really well, and she knows how to capture that delicate balance where it's droll and it's historical and it's passionate, but also kind of in a very restrained New Englandy sort of way. I love what this movie does.
What do you make of this versus the Cynthia Nixon Quiet Passion take on Emily Dickinson?
Well, I think again that's another great performance and another really good movie, but that is more operating under the sort of old school understanding of Emily Dickinson, and it's surprising that Terrence Davis buys into that so much because it's not like this stuff is all brand new. I mean, like the end of the movie talks about different books and different scholars over the years who have uncovered this or that about Emily Dickinson. And so, as far back as like, the early 20th century and even like through the 50s and the 80s, like different strains of scholarship surfaced that kind of illuminated this version that we're seeing in this film. It would be interesting to see these as a double feature for sure.
Yes. I also like the way they interweave the actual poetry into what is happening.
Very much
it's
so.
very much part of the story because Emily and Susan live in houses next door to each other. And so quite often the poetry is like a secret past note, that like one of the kids goes back and forth between the houses. And so you see, it feels like a living thing and a relevant thing.
And like a lot of times, like the text of the poetry will appear on screen and people will sort of recite it to camera or to each other. And I've never been a giant poetry person. Like it was never something that I enjoyed studying, and I don't read poetry. But this, and I was saying the other day, remember Howl? The movie with James Franco as Allen Ginsberg? Like these two movies, I think, really make an effort to do something cinematic with poetry and to sort of express it in a way that's visual and that makes it more direct for audiences. And I really appreciated that part of it because I've read Dickinson. I understand why she's important, but this movie really kind of brings a directness to it that you might not get just from the reading.
Yeah, so the title comes from her poetry, and also it seems sort of ironic because you don't necessarily think of Emily Dickinson as like a wild person who would have wild nights. And even as depicted here, the nights aren't wild. There's still an understatement to the tone of the film, but to her, it's emotionally thrilling.
Sure, yeah. And still, just the idea of an Emily Dickinson who like had orgasms is, is pretty revolutionary.
There you go. So what is your number? I am saying an 8.
I said 8.8. I like this movie a lot.
It's 8.4 is our number. It's at 92% on the tomato meter. So yeah, this is a nice surprise, and it's a real charmer. So if it's anywhere near you and you're looking for an antidote to the big summer stuff that's coming, this is a great alternative.
Yeah, and if you are paying attention to Molly Shannon's career, I think it's going in really interesting directions. She gave that incredible performance in Other People a couple of years ago and won a Spirit Award for that, and this is another really dynamite piece of work from her. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to our channel, like this video, subscribe to the podcast in the places where the podcast lives. Get extra content from us over at our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. That's where our TV recaps will be living, and we'll be doing our trailer reviews and all other good stuff like that. So if you're hungry for more, subscribe over at Patreon and follow us at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at BeFastAllDay.
So that's it for us for the film review portion of the show today. Again, as Alonso said, we've got Patreon goodies for you, so go hop on over there and join us there. As for more breakfast all day stuff, next week I've got an a la carte interview with our friend Dan Waters.
Oh, fun.
Our good friend, Heather's screenwriter, Dan Waters, who I wanted to have on from the beginning of this.
Sure.
But the timing is especially great because recently it was the 30th anniversary of the opening of Heather's, and there were all these think pieces, quote unquote think pieces, some of which had more thought in them than others. And so he was a hoot to talk to on any day, but especially now. So keep an eye out for that next week.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.